informed, wow, it really shouldn't feel like a second job, should it?
No, definitely not. There's just so much out there.
Exactly. So that's why we're doing the legwork for you today. We're looking into the latest issue, the fourth one, of Alperen's Thinking in Public newsletter.
Right. It covers quite a bit on AI and tech.
It does. And our plan is pretty simple. Pull out the really key stuff so you can quickly get a handle on what's happening and, why it actually matters.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And yeah, this issue has a really interesting mix of like how AI is being used in government. Practical stuff, but also some more cutting-edge things about language models. We've sifted through it.
Okay, great. Let's kick off with something that honestly made me pause this Snortle study. They looked at thousands, literally thousands of AI use cases globally.
Mm-hmm.
And the big takeaway wasn't we need more AI. It was more like we need AI that's designed, well, better, more thoughtfully. Makes sense, right?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It feels like a shift, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Moving past just, throwing AI at problems because it's the new shiny thing.
Yeah.
It's about actually thinking through how it fits in. And the newsletter gives some really good examples of this.
Oh, the Sydney one was brilliant, I thought. Instead of some huge, expensive new system for potholes, they just used the phones already on their garbage trucks. Like, no new gadgets, no massive spending, just a really clever way to use what they already had.
That's such a perfect illustration of that better, not more idea.
Mm-hmm.
It shows innovation isn't always some brand new invention. Sometimes it's just like applying tech creatively.
Using what's there.
Exactly.
Huh.
Solving everyday problems more efficiently.
And then you've got Estonia with their approach to AI in education. They didn't just, flood schools with AI tools immediately.
No, they were more methodical.
Yeah, they started by training teachers first, building the system, getting feedback along the way. It was very process-driven.
Which really underlines that the tech itself is only like one part of it. Yeah. You need the skills, you need the right processes in place for it to actually work. You can't just drop it in and expect magic.
So true. And Singapore's Smart Nation project had another angle on this, basically, how crucial clean, shared public data is.
Ah, yes, the data foundation.
Right. The newsletter put it nicely. If data is messy, AI gets lost too. It's like trying to navigate with a bad map,
That's a great analogy. Good quality data is, well, it's everything for AI. Without it, even the best algorithm can just churn out nonsense, or worse, biased results.
Yeah.
So Singapore's experience really highlights that groundwork, the stuff that isn't always glamorous but is absolutely essential.
So the overall picture here seems to be, well, AI isn't some magic wand on its own. You need the right processes, you need good data, and you need skilled people involved.
Mm-hmm.
And when AI projects don't work out, it's often about that context, the stuff around the AI, not the technology itself failing.
Precisely. And there was another example from Estonia during the pandemic that really shows this well. They had this huge spike in unemployment claims, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not enough advisors.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
So they used AI. It helped analyze claims, figure out who might find work quickly, flag the more complex cases. And this is the key part, the AI worked with the human advisors.
Right, it wasn't replacing them.
No, not at all. It was helping them manage the workload, prioritize better, augmenting them, really.
That's such an important point, enhancing human abilities, not just automating things away, which brings up a good question for you listening, especially if you're in government or working on social projects.
Mm-hmm.
Before bringing in new tech, maybe ask, where does this really help the system? Or am I just, using AI because everyone else is talking about it?
That's definitely the question to ask. Okay, so changing gears a bit.
Yeah.
The newsletter also touched on ChatGPT's memory.
Yeah.
It looks like OpenAI is rolling out something new there.
Yes. This sounded potentially really useful. So apparently there are two parts. One is the reference save memories. That's kind of what we know, where you explicitly tell it, hey, remember this.
Right, the explicit saving.
But the new bit is reference chat history. So ChatGPT might start remembering things from past chats, even if you didn't specifically save them. The idea is it gets to know you better over time.
Which could be quite handy, right? Getting ChatGPT to understand your specific context, maybe your work, your preferences, without you having to repeat yourself constantly.
Totally. Could lead to more relevant answers, but it's not everywhere yet. It's rolling out to Plus and Pro users first, but not yet in the EA, UK, Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, or Liechtenstein. And I don't have it yet either, so curious to see how it actually works when it lands.
Yeah, that kind of phased rollout makes sense for big changes. Lets them check performance, get feedback.
The newsletter author mentioned some past frustrations with the old memory system, like getting confused when working with different brands, mixing up personal stuff, sometimes saving random things.
Yeah, that could be annoying.
But this new system sounds like it gives you more control, which would be a definite plus.
Control seems to be the focus. The newsletter says you can manage it in settings, turn it off completely, delete specific memories you don't want.
Oh, good.
And there's even a temporary chat mode. So if you want a one-off chat that it won't remember at all, you can do that.
That's smart. Addressing those concerns about it, holding on to stuff you don't want it to, giving users that control is key.
Agreed. Okay, let's switch to something else. This affects anyone using automation tools, specifically Make.com. There's an update about its integration with X, Twitter.
Ah, right. Saw that. The newsletter laid out the dates pretty clearly. Since April 3rd, 2025, no new scenarios involving X can be created.
Okay, so new stuff has already stopped.
Yeah. And then the big one, May 30th, 2025, all the existing X scenarios just stop working. You can still see them apparently, but they won't actually run.
And the reason given is basically changes in X's API, the rules and pricing. Make.com basically said it wasn't sustainable for them to offer it fairly anymore.
Yeah, that kind of thing can really mess up workflows if you rely on it.
Definitely. Just for context, an API is like the messenger between different software, letting them talk. If X changes the rules for that messenger, it can break the connection for tools like Make.com.
So Make.com did suggest some alternatives, things like Buffer or Hootsuite, which are social media tools.
Right, management platforms.
And also other platforms like Bluesky or Mastodon. So if you were using Make for X automation, it's time to look into those options.
Good to know. And they did clarify one thing. This doesn't affect the XAI app on Make.com. That uses different API rules apparently, so those automations should be fine.
Okay, good distinction. Right, let's talk prompts. Something simple, but apparently really effective, using delimiters.
Yes. This is such a practical tip. The newsletter explains that, AI models are pretty good with simple instructions, but they can get tripped up with complex prompts.
Especially if there are different chunks of text or the instructions aren't super clear.
Exactly. And the fix is actually quite simple. Use delimiters, things like triple quotes or maybe titles like product description or tags. Just ways to clearly mark off different sections of your text.
Make it obvious for the AI.
Precisely.
Yeah.
There was a good example. Say you give it a product description and a user review, and you only want it to summarize the review.
Right.
If you just paste both in, it might get confused. But if you use delimiters, like putting the description under one heading and the review under another, maybe in quotes, the AI knows exactly which part you're talking about.
It's like putting up signposts in your prompt. You might not need it for, what's the capital of France, but for anything more involved.
Yeah, for complex stuff, it's crucial. Because, as the newsletter says, the model isn't human, so don't make it guess what you mean.
Good advice. Make its job easier, get better results. Simple.
It really is. Just makes things clearer.
Okay, now the newsletter also highlighted a tool called Ottogrid. It sounds like an AI-powered thing for data tasks using pre-made templates.
Yeah, this one sounded interesting. Designed for people who work with data a lot, maybe in spreadsheets. The idea is to simplify things.
The pitch was no code, no mess, just simple and fast. Always appealing when data's involved, right?
Definitely. It sounds like they're trying to combine the usability of something like Notion with AI smarts, spreadsheet structure, and API connections, all in one table format.
They mentioned a few specific templates. One was real-time email validation. Checks if emails on a list are valid, unknown, or invalid.
Oh, that could be super useful for cleaning lists before sending out campaigns. Avoid bounces, improve deliverability.
Yeah, seems very practical. Then there was contact enrichment. You give it a name and company, and it tries to find extra info, email, job title, LinkedIn, maybe even company news.
Wow, okay. They claimed it was like 10 times faster than doing that manually.
That's what they said. Could be huge for sales, recruiting, anyone building contact lists.
Absolutely. Manual research takes forever.
They also had a job post parser. You give it a LinkedIn job post link, and it pulls out the key details: title, location, skills, salary, that kind of thing.
Interesting for tracking hiring trends or seeing what competitors are up to.
Yeah, could be handy for analysis. And lastly, a tech news categorizer. Summarizes news links, tags the type of news like product launch or funding, and gives it an impact score.
Okay, that sounds useful for staying on top of industry buzz, competitor moves, especially in tech where things change so fast.
For sure. So Ottogrid seems like it's positioned as a time saver for data-heavy tasks, automating the grunt work. The newsletter basically said, if it sounds interesting, just grab a template and try it out.
Right, see if it fits your workflow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit now. The newsletter also dug into Stanford's 2025 AI Index report. Some really big picture trends in there.
Yeah, this report sounds packed. One thing that jumped out was how fast AI is getting better on really tough tests.
The benchmarks.
Like scores on tests called MMMU, GPQA, SWE, Bench, they shot up quite a bit in just a year. And AI agents are apparently outperforming humans now in some timed coding challenges.
That's pretty significant progress, especially in areas needing complex thinking and coding. Beating humans on timed tasks is a real milestone.
Another point was just how much AI is becoming part of everyday life now. Think FDA-approved AI medical devices way up from just a few years ago.
Right, the number jumped dramatically.
And things like driverless rides, Waymo, Baidu's Apollo Go, doing hundreds of thousands of rides per week, it's scaling up.
It really shows AI moving from labs into the real world, impacting healthcare, transport. Though more AI in critical areas like medicine definitely brings up important questions about safety and oversight too.
True. The report also talked money. Lots of private investment, especially in the U.S., way ahead of China in dollar terms for 2024. And huge investment in generative AI specifically.
Yeah, nearly $34 billion globally for Gen AI. And businesses are adopting AI much more too, a big jump in uptake.
It shows strong belief in the tech's potential, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And while the U.S. is still leading in developing the top-tier model,
More models than China last year, yeah.
the quality gap seems to be shrinking. Models from both countries are scoring pretty similarly on tests now.
So more competition, more global development. Interesting.
And on a practical level, AI is getting cheaper and easier to access. The cost for GPT 3.5 level performance dropped massively.
Like 280 times cheaper over 18 months or something?
Like that, yeah. Which means powerful AI is getting into more hands, smaller companies, individuals. That democratization is huge.
But there was a downside noted too. Responsible AI practices, they seem to be lagging behind the tech development.
Yeah, that's a concern. More AI incidents being reported, but standard safety checks aren't always happening, even at big companies. And new safety benchmarks aren't widely used yet.
So the safety and ethics side needs to catch up.
Definitely. It's critical as AI gets woven deeper into everything. We need to proactively manage the risks.
And finally, AI education. It's a mixed bag, apparently. Access is growing globally, which is good.
More countries teaching computer science in schools, yeah. Especially progress in Africa and Latin America.
But challenges remain, like basic infrastructure, electricity in some places, and even where resources exist, like in the U.S., many teachers feel they should teach AI, but don't feel prepared to actually do it.
That readiness gap is key. We need better training and resources for educators to actually bridge that gap.
Lots to unpack from that Stanford report. Okay, and the last major thing from the newsletter, GPT 4.1. Sounds like a pretty big step up, especially for coding and handling long stuff.
Yeah, positioned as a significant improvement over GPT-4o in those specific areas. Better coding, better at following complex instructions, and can handle much longer inputs.
The coding improvement sounded really striking. GPT 4.1 apparently did much better on a test called SWE Bench Verified compared to 4.0.
Right, that test is tough. It involves understanding a whole code project, finding a real bug, and fixing it. A big jump in score there suggests a real improvement in code understanding and generation.
Could really change things for developers?
Potentially, yeah. Boost productivity, help with complex tasks.
And the other big thing was the context window, how much information it can handle at once. GPT 4.1 can apparently manage up to 1 million tokens.
Which is huge. Think of tokens like words or parts of words. 1 million tokens means it can process really long documents, big code bases, or support more complex AI agent systems without losing track.
So better memory and understanding for long-form content.
Exactly. Leads to more coherent answers when you're feeding it a lot of information.
And it's also better at following instructions, like nearly 10% better, which helps for multi-step tasks.
Right. And even the smaller versions, the mini and nano versions of 4.1, got upgrades. They're faster, cheaper, but apparently still outperform the older GPT-4o Mini in many tests.
So good options for quicker tasks like classification or autocomplete.
Yeah, where speed and cost are more critical, makes powerful AI more feasible for different kinds of applications.
Now, these new 4.1 models, they're mainly available via the API 4 now, right? Not directly in ChatGPT yet.
Correct. API access first. But the expectation is that some of these improvements will eventually make their way into the GPT-4o model that powers the main ChatGPT interface.
Okay, so we might see those benefits trickle down later.
That's usually how it works. Test it via the API, refine it, then bring features to the broader user base.
Wow. Okay. We've definitely covered a lot of ground from just this one issue of the Thinking in Public newsletter. Everything from smarter AI use in government
To ChatGPT, getting a better memory, automation tool changes, simple prompting tricks.
that Ottogrid tool, the big trends from the Stanford AI Index, and now these GPT 4.1 upgrades.
It really gives you a sense of the different currents in AI and tech right now, doesn't it? From the very practical to the quite advanced.
Absolutely. So for you listening, maybe think about which of these things really clicked for you. Was it the ideas about implementing AI better, the potential of a smarter ChatGPT?
Or maybe the automation tools, the AI index findings about where things are heading, or the power boost from GPT 4.1 for coding or long documents.
Yeah, which part feels most relevant to what you're doing or thinking about?
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, given just how fast everything seems to be moving, as highlighted in this issue.
What core beliefs or assumptions we hold about technology, about how it fits into our work and lives, might need a bit of a rethink as things keep accelerating like this.
Yeah, something to chew on.